Some people spend their whole lives searching for the one moment that changes everything. I found mine on a broken-down train somewhere between Sheffield and nowhere. My name is Rosie Callahan. I grew up in a small village outside Edinburgh where everyone knows your name. My mum used to say that the Scottish hills were put there to remind us that life has peaks and valleys. The only way through is to keep walking. She was wise like that. She was also gone too soon. Cancer has a way of arriving without invitation and leaving without apology. I was 19 when we lost her. Old Mrs. Fenwick found me there. She told me that whenever someone truly good leaves this world, they become part of the wind, not gone, just changed. I never forgot that 10 years later. I was living in London, working as a creative director for a mid-sized events firm. Running on coffee and ambition. My best friend Clara had followed me down south, sharing a flat in Brixton that was too small and too loud. Life was manageable if not magical. Until the morning my boss told me the firm had lost its biggest client. Half the team would be let go. I was in that half. Clara found me sitting on the kitchen floor eating cold toast. She looked at me with equal parts pity and mischief and said we should leave. Just like that, pack up, get out, start fresh somewhere new. She had a cousin in Manchester who could let us stay. We had 2 suitcases, 1 car, and absolutely no plan beyond the motorway. The car made it as far as the Midlands before something under the bonnet decided it had done enough. We ended up on a train, a quiet, half-empty service heading north, smelling of old upholstery. Clara fell asleep within minutes. I sat watching the grey English countryside roll past the window, feeling the particular loneliness of being between places, between lives, between who you were and who you might become. That is when he walked down the aisle. He was tall and a little rumpled. Wearing a high-visibility vest, he apologized to each row he disturbed with the casual ease of someone who apologizes often and means it. He sat across from me, because it was the only empty seat, looked at my face, and said, "Are you all right?" I told him I was fine. He looked at me the way people do when they know that is not entirely true, but are kind enough not to push. His name was Daniel. He told me he worked for the rail company, maintenance and inspections, that he travelled these lines every few weeks checking what needed fixing. He said he loved it because no 2 journeys were the same. I thought that was either very wise or very optimistic. We talked for 2 hours about Edinburgh and the hills, about my mother and his father who had also passed, about the strange freedom of not quite knowing where you belong. He had the kind of attention that made you feel like the only person. Clara woke up somewhere near Nottingham, saw us talking, smiled and pretended to go back to sleep. Manchester was cold and kind. Clara's cousin sorted us out. I found work coordinating private events. Clara landed a design role almost immediately, because Clara has always landed on her feet with infuriating grace. Life was rebuilding itself around me, whether I was ready or not. Daniel texted 2 days after the train. He said the countryside had looked different since our conversation, which I thought was a beautiful thing to say. We met for coffee in Didsbury, then for a walk along the canal, then for a dinner that stretched 3 hours. He made me laugh. He made me think. He asked questions that no one had bothered asking me in years. What I did not know was that Daniel was not simply a maintenance inspector. His family owned a significant share of the rail franchise, a business built over 2 generations. He had quietly taken to working the lines himself once a year to understand what his employees experienced. He never led with this. He never led with anything except genuine curiosity and an easy warmth that made rooms feel warmer. I found out by accident. A colleague at the hotel mentioned a guest, a Mr. Daniel Hadley, whose family had donated to a charity event. I went pale over my clipboard. That evening I asked him directly. He was honest. Immediately and fully honest, the way people are when they have been waiting for the right moment and are relieved it has finally arrived. He said he had wanted to tell me, but that being known for something before being known as yourself was a weight he had carried his whole life, and for once he had wanted someone to simply see him. I was angry for about 48 hours. Clara talked me through it with bluntness and biscuits. And one very long walk around Heaton Park. She said what matters is not how someone introduces themselves, but whether they stay. He stayed. He came to Manchester with wild flowers he had bought from a market stall, not a florist. Which somehow made it better. He did not apologize for being who he was. He apologized for the timing, which is a different and more honest thing. We were married the following autumn in a small chapel outside Edinburgh where my mother used to take me as a girl. The hills were gold. The wind was everywhere. On our wedding night I told Daniel about what old Mrs. Fenwick had said, that people become the wind. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said that explained a great deal. Because all day at the altar he had felt something moving through him that was too warm to be weather. I looked at the sky and thought, yes, that sounds exactly right. Here is what I know now. Life does not fall apart to punish you. It falls apart to reposition you. The job you lose is clearing room. The car that breaks down is pointing you somewhere. The stranger across the aisle is not accidental. You are always being guided. Even when it feels like you are simply being lost, trust the detour. The best things rarely arrive on the route you planned, and if you ever feel the wind on a still day, say hello back.